Everybody, we're going to get started in just 1 minute. I would like to invite you to, if you have not already done so, download your worksheet. It's going to help you follow along with the webinar today and also get the most out of it. I'd like you to feel when you've left here that you really started your MBA application, or at least are starting to plan for your MBA application. And Carly, my assistant, just posted the URL where you can download it if you haven't done so. I'd also like to suggest that you have a stack of small Post-it notes next to you. If you have those handy, you can write down suggestions on the Post-it note and then just stick them in the right box on the worksheet. And if you don't have Post-it notes, obviously pen or pencil will do. I actually would recommend a pencil so you can erase, but it's up to you. We're going to get started in exactly 1 minute. All right, as people are wandering in, could you post in the chat window where you are located, city and state if you're in the United States, and city and country if you're outside the United States? Anybody want to share where they're located? City and state if you're in the United States, and city and country if outside the United States. All right, I want to thank you all for joining me for how to maximize your chances of acceptance and reduce your stress before the 2022-23 MBA application season. My name is Linda Abraham. I'm the founder of Accepted, and I've been its CEO since its founding. I'm also the co-founder of the Association of International Graduate Admissions Consultants and served as its first president. I co-authored MBA Admissions for Smarties, which is a book. I'm also the host of MBA Admissions of the Admissions Straight Talk podcast. I've been quoted in the Wall Street Journal, U.S. News, Poets and Quants, Business Because, and CBS News. And I was named by Business Insider as an MBA consultant to know to get into business school. We have a gift for participants today. I'll post this again, but for those of you who came on time, you'll know what it is. First of all, we have an MBA timeline that summarizes what I'm going to say here today, but not all the details. So don't just go grab it and leave. There's definitely things I'm going to give you that are not on the timeline. But this is something that you can print out and put on your refrigerator or your bulletin board or wherever it's going to be a good reminder for you. And again, Carly just posted the URL in the chat window, and it's also on the screen. And I asked earlier if anybody would share where they're located, and I see that we have Amit from Madrid and Fernando from Los Angeles, which is where I'm located. So I have a neighbor here. And if anybody else wants to post where they're located, I love the international nature of these events. City and state if you're in the United States, city and country if you're outside the United States, please do so in the chat window. So one gift is the MBA timeline. Somebody from Mumbai, welcome, near and far. So far we have North America, Europe, Asia. It's pretty good. What time is it in Mumbai now? Toronto, welcome. Isha, what time is it in Mumbai now? Madrid, it must be also. Gosh, it must be what, 3 or 4 in the morning in Madrid? So, all right. So India is not so bad. It's 6:30. It's 2 a.m. Amit, hats off to you. Really, double welcome for coming at 2 a.m. Okay, let's get going. Second gift. I hope it's going to be worth. You're gonna feel like it was worth getting up at 2 a.m. I'm going to do my best to make sure it is. $500 off an MBA application package. This is whether you rush or non-rush. The coupon code is early bird. And it's accepted.com/MBA package. This is valid from February 16th to 24th. I also want to point out that we are probably having a price increase in March. So if you purchase now, you can lock in not only this year's rates, but get $500 off this year's rates and before the price increase. Again, valid through the 24th. You have about a week. And the coupon code is early bird. How many of you will be, can we start with the polls now? How many of you will be a first-time applicant or a re-applicant this cycle when you apply? All right, we have 70% participating, 80% participating. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's end the poll. So 88% of you are first-time applicants and 13% are reapplicants. Okay, great. And the next poll is, oh, you saw the results. Next poll is, how many of you are planning to take a test before applying? And the options are, and hopefully there's only one choice that will apply to you. You took the test and you're happy with your score. You took the test and you're planning to retest. You haven't taken the test yet and you're planning to take a test. And you're not planning to take a test at all. Okay. And we're at 80% participating. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's close the poll and share the results. So 13% of you took the test and are happy with your score. 13% took the test and are planning to retake. 75% of you are planning to take a test. So that's obviously the biggest bulk, but haven't yet done so. And 0 are not planning to take it. Okay, fine. You can stop sharing. All right. Thank you for that. It gives me a good idea what's going on here. All right. Now, one of the big points I'm going to make today over and over is the importance of starting early and working steadily. It is now February. Yes, I know there's a square for January, but whatever on your worksheet. It's now February. You have March, the remainder of February, and then all of March, April, May, June, July, August. That's 6 full months, plus a little bit of February, a little bit of September, depending upon where you're applying, to get applications ready for round 1, if you're aiming for round 1. Can I have a show of hands? How many of you are aiming for round 1? Raise your hand if you want to apply round 1. About half of you. About half of you. Okay, great. You will get into more and better schools if you work steadily and start early. Your scholarship chances will improve. You'll be more prepared to get the most out of business school when you arrive on campus and you're making a major investment in that education. So you want to get the most out of it. And the fact that you're here means you understand that it's important to start early. So congratulations to you, and let's keep moving on. And that's going to be another message, that you should work steadily and continuously throughout the next 6 or 7 months if you're applying round 1, or 9 months if you're applying round 2, to be able to submit the best MBA application you can. Now, February is for assessment and planning. This is a busy time because this is where you can determine what you need to improve, and you have the time to do it, or at least some of it. So first of all, most of you are planning to take the test. If you haven't already done so, take a practice test and start your test preparation, or at least decide what kind of test preparation you're going to do for the Gmat, the GRE, the EA, or whatever test is accepted by all the programs you're applying to. And that would be the same if you don't have a score that you're satisfied with, which was almost 90% of you. There's just the 13% that already had the test and had a score they were happy with. Determine if and which tests are required or could be beneficial to you, and then make sure the tests you take are accepted by the schools you are considering. That's number 1 for February. Number 2, clarify your post-MBA goals. This should be front and center when you choose the programs you want to apply to. I can't tell you how many times, everybody's focused on that test, everybody's focused on the stats. But you know what? For many schools, a clear, achievable, somewhat of a stretch MBA goal is just as important as the test. So, and it should be important to you, because without knowing that, you could go to the wrong program. You could make a mistake. If you're not clear on your post-MBA direction, you need to clarify your desired post-MBA role and the industry in which you want to work. Now, remember, there's a difference between what you want to study and what you intend to do. You may want to do brand management, and that might mean that you study marketing, you might study operations, you might study, I don't know what else you're going to study for that, but those are 2 things. But that's not what you're going to want to do. You're going to want to do brand management. You might want to do wealth management. And for that, you're definitely going to study finance. You might take classes in asset management or wealth management or advising or something like that. But what you're going to want to do is wealth management. You don't need to know which specific company you want to work for, but you can say a company like X. So you can say, I'd like to work in strategic management consulting for a company like McKinsey or Bain or something like that. You can say, I want to work in a tech company like Facebook or Google or Amazon. And again, that focus, you have to be able to define the function, what you want to do after your MBA. If you're not clear or you lack direction, you need that direction before you apply. And here are 2 suggestions to get that clarity. One is just online research about specific roles and functions. And you all know how to use Google. You all know how to read articles online or watch videos online. And the other one is talk to people about their jobs. And I would highly recommend, if this is something that you need assistance with, that you listen to accepted.com/437, which is an interview with a recent Stanford grad who wrote a book about coffee chats for MBAs. It's a very good interview, very enjoyable, nice fellow. And again, he gives you ideas on what you can do with these informational interviews or coffee chats. The next thing you have to do is assess your academic record. Is your GPA competitive at the schools you're aiming for? And you can see that the top programs have very high average GPAs for their matriculants, whether it's 3.8 for Stanford or 3.56 for Booth. Those are not wimpy GPAs. So if you look at your GPA and it's, let's say, 0.3 below the school's average that you want to get into that school, I would encourage you to sign up for classes to beef up your GPA and demonstrate the quant skills that business schools value, or perhaps improve your English and your verbal skills, work on whatever is weak. You can take classes after you take the Gmat or GRE or EA, after you take the aptitude test, if it's too much to do simultaneously. I realize you're working full time. Again, there's a lot going on here. You want to do what you're doing well. So if you can't cram everything in all at once, then do it sequentially. You also need to evaluate your leadership experience. Leadership is something that business schools really want to see, certainly top business schools really want to see in all their applicants. So do you have leadership experience in college, in community service, perhaps on the job? You want to look for opportunities at this point in time to enhance and expand your leadership roles if you don't have recent leadership experience. And again, this is something that you should keep your eye on throughout the application process. But do evaluate, have I had leadership roles throughout this period, either on the job or off the job? If yes, well, keep up what you're doing. If no, then seek those kinds of roles out. What about international and multicultural exposure? This is increasingly important in our global business world. If you have lived in one or more than one country, if you've traveled frequently outside your home country, or traveled extensively, check this one off. You have it. You probably don't need to do much more. If you have lived only in your home country, you haven't worked outside your home country, look for globally facing work opportunities or try to squeeze in some personal international travel. And yes, I do know about the epidemic. I know how hard it is to travel internationally. I've actually done it in November, so I'm keenly aware of it. But do your best. The other thing you might want to do is, do you have multicultural experience in your home country? Especially if your country is a large country, you probably have more than one ethnicity or one ethnic group in your country, perhaps one language in your country. And then you can talk about interacting with people who are from different cultures, even if they are located down the block or in the next neighborhood. Business schools don't want to admit nerds or workaholics. They want multidimensional individuals whom they believe will contribute to their communities because they present a history of past contribution. So again, if you've made time for hobbies and or community service in the past, great, just keep it up. If you haven't, you need to try to make time for something that you find enjoyable, meaningful, and hopefully contributes to your community, however you define it. It could be your geographic community. It could be a disadvantaged community that you're a part of or that you live near. It could be an ethnic group, a religious group, sports, arts, professional. We're all part of multiple communities. And I would also encourage you to make 1 or 2 serious commitments, if you haven't done so already, not 10. Okay. I'm a strong believer in the art of the possible. So try that, again. Now I see somebody has a hand up. We will be taking questions at the end. I'll also be joined by one of Acceptance consultants, most experienced consultants. So if you have questions at some point in time, please just post them in the question window. And again, I'll get to them at the end. Okay, that's February assessment. March, get moving. So if you need to clarify your goals, now is the time to do it. Now, I gave you a couple of hints as to how to do it in the chat window. Do you want to give me some of your ideas on how to clarify your goals? Whom are you going to talk to? Whom are you going to seek out? In the chat window, please. Anybody have any ideas? If you need to clarify your goals, whom you're going to try and talk to? All right, I'll give you a few suggestions. You want to peers, very good. Amit, excellent. A mentor, excellent. Speak to colleagues and mentors. That was people in the industries you're interested in. Excellent, Fernando. People in positions you think you'd be interested in. Exactly. Schedule at least 4 informational interviews for the month of March. Ask them what their days are like, what they like and dislike about their work, their employer, their work environment, as well as other questions that are important to you. If you can, network with people who are in hiring roles and ask them what they're looking for in new hires for the roles that you find most attractive. By the end of the month, you should aim to have the kind of professional direction that will be your North Star in choosing where to apply and ultimately in choosing where to focus in business school. If you do this legwork now, and you do this prep now, this research now, you could really have it as a basis for your efforts for the next 3 years. It doesn't mean you can't change, but it does give you direction. Now, once you have this goal, like you're talking about choosing schools, you should also start researching schools, and you can do that in March. You could start with specialty rankings for your field of interest, your goal. During your informational interviews, ask the people you're talking to which programs they attended, where does their company recruit for the positions that you are most interested in. And if the person you're talking to is an MBA, you can ask what classes and activities did they find most valuable. I would also say this is a great time in terms of test prep to see which tests is required by most of your target schools and which tests you think you'll do better on. So in terms of the first question, that just requires looking on the website. And almost all MBA programs today will accept the Gmat or the GRE, and most are test agnostic. Some are accepting the EA, but not all. Some are waiving the exam, but very few. Some have test waivers. That's a whole separate subject. Once you determine which test you're taking, then take a practice test and see how you do, or which test you want to take. You might end up taking a practice for both the Gmat and the GRE and just see which one you do better on. That's fine. Then choose the method that you can afford in terms of test prep that you can afford, and that will get you the highest score. Because you ideally want to take it once, you want to get it done with, and you want to move on. If your grades from undergraduate are a problem, or your quant skills are an issue, a question mark, check if you can take any classes after you take your Gmat, your GRE, or your EA, unless you want to first beef up the skills and then take the course. In April, I would encourage you to finish the test prep and take the test in April. If you get the score that you're satisfied with, you're done. Like that 13% who said that they could, that they took the test and they have a score they're happy with, great. If you're dissatisfied with the test, like the other 13%, should you retake? Should you consider another test? Why do you feel you didn't reach your target score? Is it something that's changeable? In other words, were you getting sick that day? Was there a jackhammer going outside the testing center if you took it in a testing center, or outside your house if you took it at home? If you were getting sick, then hopefully the next time around you wouldn't be getting sick. Was there a big project at work so you couldn't prepare the way you really should have prepared? And then the question becomes, what can you change about your test prep? If there are things that were beyond your control that you think will not be in existence the next time around, or there are things that you can change to improve the outcome, and you're not happy with your score, then retake it. If everything you did was right and you still didn't get the score, then maybe you just need to apply with that score. Though you could try and retake. It's not going to hurt anything. If you're finished with your test and you want to beef up other academics, again, either provide evidence of quant skills or just show higher grades because your grades in undergrad weren't that great, start with courses that you registered for in March. UCLA Extension is on the quarter system. I think Berkeley Extension might be on the quarter system. So you might try some of those classes. You could also try HBS online. Again, that would, and get off to do it on a graded basis and do well in it. If your goals still aren't clear, but hopefully they are, continue with your informational interviews and research. In terms of school research, scour websites for schools of interest. Look at the school's employment reports. See where the graduates are getting jobs and for what positions. Look at the curriculum. Is it what you want to study? And then there's extracurriculars. Do they support your social, educational, and professional needs? And I would also encourage you to follow the schools that are of most interest to you on social media. Whatever, whether it's Instagram or YouTube, whatever you like, follow them there so that you are going to keep up with what's new, also be showing interest in the school, and that will help you a lot when it comes time to writing essays. You can also attend online events at this point. And then there's preliminary work on essays. I don't recommend that you start pre-drafting essays at this point, but you certainly can take notes about what you find attractive at different schools and also what you don't like at different schools as you're attending these events, visiting the websites, and following them on social media. Also, you can take notes if you have ideas for essays or achievements that you'd like the schools to know about. You might have just had a great project at work that you finished fantastically. Write it down. What did you learn from the experience? What were the results of your efforts? Realize that you don't just want to say what you did. You also want to bring in the impact that you had or that your project had and how you grew, changed, and what you learned from the process. Now, May. Again, we're moving forward. In terms of academics, if you do decide to retake the test, well, then you're going to have to resume or continue your test prep. And again, consider upping your game in terms of the test prep. If you did it self-study, try an online course. If you did an online course, maybe you need something more structured and in person, or if again, COVID permitting. If you took a course and you think that what you really need is a tutor, then get a tutor. If you're finished with the test and need to take some classes, continue with the spring quarter studies if you were enrolled in the quarter system. Perhaps an online course. I mentioned a couple. I mentioned HBS Online. There's also mbamath.com, or register for the summer session. Again, the classes that you should take will depend on where you're weak. You want to take classes in the area that you're weak. In terms of your goals, I'd strongly recommend that you draft for yourself a 1 to 2 sentence goal statement in terms of the function you want to perform and the industry in which you want to do it. If you have a longer term contribution or greater good that you want to achieve in your career, you can add a sentence or two for that long-term goal. Again, this is for you. You're not going to be sharing it or showing it to anybody unless you possibly work with us and want to share it with us. If it's not yet clear, continue your research in terms of career search. Perhaps consider talking to a career counselor or using a site like Woken, which is a career guidance site developed by an NYU Stern grad. And she also, I interviewed her for the Admissions Rate Talk podcast. You can find that at accepted.com/354. She talks about her path, both to Stern and beyond, and this company that she founded called Woken. All right. Again, continue with the school's research, continue attending online events with admissions committee and students. Realize that the schools also can track your attendance at these events. So attending the events also demonstrates your interest in the program to the schools. And you can also attend ones for people from specific geographies, obviously your geography, your geographic group, your identity group, and perhaps for people interested in your professional goals. as well as general admissions presentations. If by May it's possible to visit campuses, and I really hope it will be, and also geographically feasible to visit them, by all means, go and do that. If possible, go while classes are still in session, which might mean that you move this back to April, depending upon the school, and try and chat with students. It's an opportunity for you to get kind of a unrehearsed picture of life on campus. Attend any functions the schools provide for prospective students when you do visit. May is a great time for you to nail your resume. You can update it if something material changes between May and when you actually apply, but it's probably not going to change a lot. Now, if you're in a technical field, realize you're applying to business school, not a technical job. And you want your resume to focus very much on the business impact, the leadership impact that you have had, and not on the XYZ widget that you designed or created, even if it's really, really cool. So do not focus on technical achievements, but on your leadership and impact, and quantify your impact as much as possible. If your widget increased sales for the company by 20%, then that's what you should focus on, not the technical achievement. Realize that most business schools prefer a one-page resume unless you have 10 plus years of experience. All right, now let's start talking about essays. Continue to take notes as you learn more about schools, and again, jot down essay ideas. June, get ready for takeoff. Hopefully, you can be done with the test this month, right? Retake it one more time, continue your courses if needed, and now really choose the schools where you want to apply and start working on the applications as they come out. Fill in the boxes for the schools that have posted their applications and where you plan to apply. Now, just in terms of schools, where you should be applying, let me ask you in the chat window, please, could you let me know, what does this diagram represent to you? What does the diagram represent to you? Anybody? Choosing schools wisely. Thank you, Isha. Exactly. There's a universe of schools out there that you may want to attend. There's another universe of schools likely to want you based on your qualifications. And if you apply in this sweet spot in here, you are likely to get an acceptance. Exactly. Thank you, Isha. So you already have now you know what your test score is, you know your GPA. Hopefully, if you needed to, you may not need to, but if you do need to, you've been taking some classes and getting A's in them. You've selected the schools you want to apply to. It's time to start working on the applications as they come out, because you might have a few come out in May, but most will come out in June and July and August. So at this point, you can fill in the boxes for the schools that have posted their applications and where you plan to apply in round one if the application sites are open. You can also choose and ask recommenders. And first of all, choose recommenders that meet the school's criteria for recommenders. Most want professional recommendations. Some will say they want a peer recommendation. That's okay. Most will want people who are in supervisorial roles. And then you have to ask them, and they want people who've worked closely with you, not, the boss's boss's boss. And you have to ask them, are you willing and able to write a strong, positive letter of recommendation for me? If there's hesitation on the part of the person you're asking, move on and ask somebody else. And I think now it is time to start drafting essays. Focus on one school at a time. Make sure you answer the questions that are posed, and realize that the purpose of the essays is to provide a window into you, the human being, a future member of the community, and a future leader in the business world. The other two purposes, we have an acronym PAD, provide a window into the real you, add value to the other elements of the application and each other. The essays shouldn't duplicate each other. And then D is demonstrate your communications ability. And I would encourage you to develop a schedule so that you finish your applications 3 days before their due date. Now you might say, why 3 days early? Well, again, this is about avoiding stress and maximizing your chances of acceptance. If you set up the schedule such that at the latest, your applications are finished 3 days before they're due, and there's a hurricane or a power outage, or you get sick, or who knows what happens, you can still submit stress-free. But if you plan to finish on your due date, probably at 11 p.m., you are a stress junkie. You're risking server problems. You're risking that hurricane and power outage. You're risking, again, getting sick, whatever it is. And I would strongly encourage you to, again, move it forward. You may want to consider applying to some programs round 1 and some round 2. This allows you more time for writing, rewriting, and revising and proofing. If you, the other advantage of this is if you apply round 1 to your top schools and are admitted, then you won't have to pay for application fees for round 2. Now, July, continue working on essays school by school. Finish one school, put it away, and start another. If you schedule appropriately, you can have a few days to 1 week to proof applications for each school that you apply to. In other words, put it away, move on to another school, write that school, write another school, write another school, then go back to the first school that you worked on and presumably is going to be due first. Give recommenders any necessary information. You may want to highlight an achievement or two for them, and you want to provide them with a resume and a brief statement of the school's values if they don't write a lot of LORs, of letters of recommendation for MBA applicants. August and September, you're almost there. Finish your essays, proof them, prepare your videos and your short answer questions, proof them again, remind recommenders weekly of their due date until their recommendations are submitted, and then send a thank you letter to them. And when you know if you are accepted or where you're accepted, let them know the outcome, and again, thank them for their part in your acceptance. Continue to attend relevant online school events and continue to attend classes as needed. Consider signing up for more fall quarter if, depending upon where you're at in terms of your GPA and academic qualifications. Submit your polished applications the day before due. Pat yourself on the back. You've done a lot of hard work. Don't stop now. Don't stop your courses, your volunteer work, your leadership expansion, etc., because you'll need those activities for your interviews, or if waitlisted, or if you have to apply it later. Some of you may decide that you can't fully prepare by round 1 deadlines, and that's fine. You're better off applying round 2 with an excellent application than round 1 with a mediocre one. For those of you thinking, I don't have to do everything she laid out, great. I don't really think I need to start now. Realize that your competition are the applicants who, number 1, start early. Number 2, approach the process purposefully and methodically. And 3, spend several months in their spare time improving their qualifications, researching, working on essays, and the presentation of their applications. They are your competition. Okay, now let's have a quick contest here, okay? The first one to answer this question gets a free consultation with me. The question is, what are 2 steps that you should take in February, this month? Chat window, please. All right, Payal, you won. Assess and plan. Great. Okay. Clarify goals. Okay, and you're right, Amit. It's clarify your MBA goals. Now, I'm wondering if you could share with me what has been the most valuable concept, insight, or piece of information so far in this presentation. In the chat window, please. You're welcome, Payal. Focusing on leadership in your resume? Great. Apps can seem overwhelming, but not so much if you can break it down into small, achievable goals. Good. I'm so happy you said that. That's what I was trying to do here. Okay, great. Did anybody find the worksheet helpful? Holistic approach on how to apply to schools. Perfect. Thank you. This is great. Did anybody raise your hand if you found the worksheet helpful at all? All right, a few of you. Okay, fine. Have direction in your post MBA plans. Good. Thank you. I would say thank you with your name, but I'm afraid I'll mispronounce it. Chijoki, is that how it is? If I did mispronounce it, I apologize. Wonderful. Okay. As you seem to realize, there's an awful lot for you to do in the next 7 months. The MBA process is a marathon, not a sprint. And now you have a slight problem, not even a slight problem, maybe a big problem. How can you maximize your chances and apply confidently and successfully? Well, I've laid out a lot of things that you can do that will maximize your chances in terms of an approach and a plan, but even how to implement the plan that I've laid out can be difficult. How do you know if you need to retake a test, enhance your academics, leadership, or community service? What schools should you apply to? I know I gave that nice Venn diagram, but is it really easy to know what schools might want you? Who should be your recommenders? How can you write a resume that rocks? And what about the essays? Professional writers have editors for a reason. Shouldn't you? You're now at a crossroads on your professional journey. As you start your MBA application, you can either take a do-it-yourself approach or a professional approach. Given that we're talking about a 6-figure investment in graduate management education, your career, lifelong earnings, and job satisfaction, I highly recommend the professional approach and engagement with an accepted consultant. We'd like to help you apply confidently and successfully. While you want to do this exactly once, or once more if you are a reapplicant, we've been helping MBA applicants get accepted for 27 years, almost 28 years. We'd love to help you not only get accepted, but get into a program that launches you on your dream career trajectory. Put simply, it pays to have an experienced professional guiding you at this critical juncture on your educational and professional journey. If you engage with Accepted, you can access expertise and experience, reduce your stress, save time, optimize your school choice and application, and mitigate weaknesses. Now, some may say Accepted is expensive, and we're definitely not a cheap service because of the quality of our staff, one of whom you're going to meet momentarily. However, there are also more expensive risks associated with not using Accepted. Reapplication can easily cost a couple of $1,000s with application fees, test prep, and possible interview travel. The interview travel is kind of iffy right now. One additional year of pre-MBA earnings can cost you in the 5 figures in dollars. Think about that. And there's a potential that you could have gotten into a better program with lifelong higher earnings and network, and that could again cost you in 5 or 6 figures. To prove our point, I invite you to check out our new tool on the screen. It's fun, it's quick, it's free. It provides 3 different scenarios and lays out the cost of rejection in each case. But enough from me. What do accepted clients say? We made it. I finally submitted both applications on time. Thank you so much for your amazing efforts and support on both applications. I will definitely keep you posted on my status. I would also like to allocate the remaining time, blah, blah, blah. I feel exhausted but cannot sleep because of the excitement. You'll be hearing from me soon. Again, thank you. This fellow had a low Gmat, but he was later accepted to Harvard, Stanford, and Wharton. Or the next one. I was admitted. I cannot thank you enough. This was to London Business School. And the third one. This was from an Indian male consultant who got rejected the first time around and started working with accepted consultant Jennifer Bloom early in the process the second time around. And what he wrote was, yesterday I got the good news and it was from Harvard. I'm absolutely thrilled. Amidst the euphoria, I want to take out a moment to thank Accepted, Jennifer in particular, for all the help and in ways that went beyond admissions consulting. From motivating me when I received a bunch of rejections, that was when he first came to her, to almost yelling at me when I tried to make last minute tweaks to the essays. Imagine yourself in the shoes of the clients I just quoted, accepted to your dream school, getting ready for the experience of a lifetime and the career you've dreamed of. We want to support you on this journey as we did the clients you just heard from. But are doubts and questions about your qualifications and how to proceed leading to analysis paralysis, obsessive form stalking, concern about your essays, maybe Reddit fever, maybe even procrastination? The fact that you're here tells me you're not like those who want to take a do-it-yourself and last-minute approach to your application. You're different. You want to actually apply to the right programs, present yourself effectively, and get accepted to the MBA program that will help you achieve your goals, aspirations, and dreams. To do so, here's what I suggest you do. Go to accepted.com/MBA package, add to cart, and get the experience of objective, perspective, and comprehensive support that can turbocharge your MBA application. We're here to guide you and help you get accepted to the best MBA program for you. And now I'm happy to take your questions. Please post your questions in the question window. And I'm joined by Natalie Greenblatt Epstein, who before joining Accepted in 2008, served as head of admissions at 3 top MBA programs and estimates that as an admissions director, she reviewed over 70,000 applications. Since joining Accepted, she has guided applicants to acceptance at top programs like Harvard, Stanford, Wharton, London Business School, INSEAD, Columbia, Kellogg, Booth, MIT Sloan, and the rest of the elite MBA programs. So Natalie, welcome. And I guess we can also, I'm going to turn on my video so you can see my smiling face. Hello, everybody.
It says unable to start video on my end, Linda.
All right, let's see what I can do about that. Okay, you should be able to do it now.
Okay. Yep. Hi, everyone.
All right. Hi, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Okay, good. Now we're both doing great. Again, I'm going to invite attendees to post a question if they have. You can post concerns that you have, information.
There's a couple here in the chat, Linda.
Yeah.
Let's
see. Is round 1 always better for applying to your target schools? What would you say?
So if you're ready to apply in round 1, then you should apply in round 1. There in the last couple of years, round 1 has actually been a bigger round than round 2 for many of the schools Linda was talking about, and many of the schools you might be interested in, but that shouldn't matter. I mean, you're presenting you, and I wouldn't worry about the competition at all because they're presenting themselves. So if you can apply in round 1, great. If you are not ready, then I would suggest you wait until round 2 when you are ready. And you need to get ready if you're not ready in round 1 to apply in round 2. Linda mentioned an interesting thing about splitting between round 1 and round 2. And I've been doing that with some clients. So there's sort of 2 things you can do. You can start with schools that may be your match schools, and then aim a little higher in round 2. I just did that with a client, and he just got invited to interview with Wharton, which wasn't even on his radar because he never thought he could get in. And now he's invited to interview with them and the Lauder program, which is great. It's a double plus. I'll tell you later who it is, but I think you know, he's already been admitted with a lot of money to some of those other schools.
Okay.
So, all right. So should you always, it depends on you, right? Are you ready? Apply. If you want to split out, then apply to some in round 1, some in round 2. You know, once you have one in your pocket, it gives you a lot of confidence. And I think applying to a school in round 2 is probably going to be beneficial if you're going higher. If you're starting out high, apply in round 1.
I have a rule that I've used, I don't know, probably a couple of decades. And I modestly call it Linda's rule. Apply in the earliest round possible, provided is in caps if I'm writing it, you don't compromise the quality of your application. So round 1, the classes are wide open. Round 2, some seats are already taken. But again, there's no advantage to submitting a mediocre application whenever you apply. So
Right.
make it your best. But basically, I agree
Yeah.
with everything that Natalie just said. Just I have a slightly different take on it. Here's another question. What are some ways to compensate for a bad undergrad GPA? Is it an absolute deal breaker, even with a great GMAT score and work experience?
It's not a deal breaker. We've gotten people into programs with low GPAs, high GMATs. We need to prove that you can, that you not only have the aptitude for the work, which is what the test score says, but you have the right mindset that you're going to succeed in the program academically. I know throughout Linda was mentioning, taking some classes. That's a great idea. You can show them, oh, look, I got a C in econ in undergrad, but I just took it again through Berkeley Extension and got an A. Who can argue with that? So you need to make a case for yourself and provide evidence. And so having a low GPA is not a deal breaker. It's not great, but it's not a deal breaker.
It's not a badge of honor. I think the other thing, I completely agree with what Natalie said. I actually did a podcast on this several years ago called 5 A's for your low GPA. You can find it at accepted.com/137. Can I have a show of hands? How many of you are concerned about your undergraduate academic record? Anybody?
Two.
Okay, few people. Yeah. Again, accept.com/137. You want to assess your GPA. Is it really low for the schools that you're aiming for? You want to address your GPA by showing that you have the ability. I sometimes like to say that the test shows you have the head for school, and the GPA shows you have the bottom for school, that you know how to sit and study. You might want to provide context for the GPA. Maybe it was immaturity. Maybe it was, God forbid, an accident or illness or something like that. But you have to provide context for it. And you also have to make sure that while you address the low GPA and you provide that context and you provide evidence that you really are better than your GPA, you also have to make sure that you make a positive case for your qualifications others than the GPA, positive case for acceptance, like every other applicant out there. So don't be so focused on your GPA that you forget the rest of the stuff that has to be done.
That's a great point, Linda.
Yeah.
I would like, just anecdotally, when I was an admissions director, I did accept one candidate with an extremely low GPA, like unheard of low.
Yeah.
But he made a great case. He actually came to see me in person and made a great case for himself. He did have like a very decent GMAT score, but he made a case for his leadership. And to me, that was worth everything. This guy not only graduated top of his class, he was class president, went to go work for McKinsey, and is successfully running his own business now, which is, I can't really say this, but it's going to go IPO soon.
So he's done well for himself.
He's done really well. And so, I mean, don't think that, again, it's a deal breaker. It's not necessarily a deal breaker. There's all sorts of individuals I've worked with low grades, and they've gotten into, several of their top programs. So,
okay, great. Another question. I don't have any volunteer experience. If I volunteer with an organization from now until I apply, will it count or look genuine or just be a waste of time?
Well, if you can make impact at that organization, and you show some passion for the organization, I think it's worth going for. Having nothing in terms of community service, like giving back to your community, is more of a red flag than doing it for 8 months or 7 months. So find something that you're passionate about and do it and make impact. Have an impact
on
the organization.
There's two thoughts I have on this. Number one, if you don't want to assume responsibility for your community, even when it's going to benefit you, why would you assume responsibility for the school's community when it might or might, might not? That's number one. Number two, you are applying and you hope to get accepted this upcoming cycle, hopefully round one, hopefully without a wait list. And that means that, it's only 6 months or 7 months or whatever that you're going to be involved in, whatever you're going to be involved in. But you don't know that that's going to happen. You could get waitlisted, and then the decision could be made in April or May or June. And suddenly this commitment that you've made and the impact that you hope to have over the next year is much greater. And the commitment that you're showing is much greater. And you could, I hope it doesn't happen to anybody here, you could even be rejected and need to reapply. And suddenly this 6 months commitment is a 1.5 year commitment, and your opportunity for impact is that much greater. So, I think that on both levels, it makes sense to get involved now. Is it as good as having been involved for the last 5 years? No, but start. All right. And then let's see, we have a couple more questions. Amit
I like
asks,
the UK question, the Europe and UK question.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing right now.
Okay.
I don't know if that's fine. If this is an out of context question over here, but if possible, could you please share your insights on 1 year, which is more prevalent in UK and Europe, against 2-year programs? What factors we should consider while choosing one or the other?
So, the big difference between the programs is that you have an internship. So if you need that internship, you're making a huge career transition, and you want the additional time to network and to explore other companies. I think for full-time work, I think a 2-year program is great. If you want to get, you don't want to leave industry too long and you want to get back into it, I think a 1-year program is fantastic. And in Europe, the recruiters are trained to accept or offer jobs to people that have only had a year. They're used to that. The recruiters in the US are used to the 2-year system, and that's why they kind of insist that there's an internship, and then there's a full-time experience. Now, I have managed both 1-year programs and 2-year programs in the US, and my 1-year students didn't really have a big issue in terms of getting jobs. They did incredibly well. So again, we as a school had to train those recruiters that this program was really the equivalent of our 2-year program. And it seemed to work. So the program still exists. It's doing quite well. There's quite a few 1-year programs out there. Columbia has one, and they talk about it's their January intake. It's not really a 1-year program. It's
about 15 months.
15 months. Yeah. But he's talking about the 11-month programs, and I think those are fine. You get a little like less choice, fewer choices in terms of like electives, but Europe is used to 1-year programs. I don't see any difference.
I also think you have to think about where you want to live after the program.
Good point.
If you want to return to your home country, which I think was India, if I recall, you were in Mumbai at 6:30 in the morning, or maybe that was somebody else. But whatever, if you're in India currently, then where do you want to live afterwards? Do you want to go back to India? Then that's probably matters a little bit less whether it's Europe or the US. If you want to live in Europe afterwards, then you're better off going to a European business school. If you want to live in the US afterwards, you're better off going to a US business school. With 9+ years of work experience, you may want to look into the MIT Sloan Fellows Program, London Business School Sloan Fellows Program. Both of these are 1-year programs, and they're aimed at people at your level of experience. There's also the Stanford MSX program. IMD in Switzerland is a 1-year MBA program. It's also just aimed a little bit older applicants.
Mhm.
I think the Cornell Johnson Accelerated MBA, which is the one that Natalie managed or was admissions director for, also has a slightly higher age, and it is a one-year program. NYU has a couple of one-year MBA programs. Kellogg has its 4-quarter programs. So there are one-year options in the US also that you may want to look into. Okay.
I mean, there's often prerequisites for those
Yeah.
programs too. Like at Cornell, we required people from STEM subjects.
I think
So if they had a
require
STEM,
master's of some kind.
we required, well, they're not doing it anymore. When I was there, we required at least a master's degree, and we gave people 15 credit hours for their master's degree. So, but I would, you know, there are prerequisites. Kellogg wants somebody with business background,
Right.
Emory's business background. And again, Linda mentioned the programs that are geared towards like mid-career or
Right.
just starting your mid-career. And those are the Sloan Fellows
and the MSX.
MSX, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. So those are some options for you, Amit. Now, Annie asks, how important is it to network with admissions officers before applying to MBA? Do we need to name drop the admissions officers or alumni or current students at the business school we network with when we write our essays, or answer the interview round questions? Or would it suffice to mention I've had the chance to connect with admissions officers, current students, alumnus at your school over the name of event? I think name dropping to name drop is not a good idea. It's really obvious. On the other hand, if you had a particularly significant and influential conversation with a certain current student, it'd be very appropriate. But if you name drop 10 different people that you've met with over the course of the 6 months between now and when you apply, that's going to be overdone. What do you think, Natalie?
No, I completely agree with it. It can backfire on you. Not the networking, but the the listing. Like if you're listing people, it's just it was an eye roll for me when I was reading applications. So they want to know that you've networked with the school, that you know the school really well, and that information can be drawn out from admissions officers and from current students or alumni. And I do wholeheartedly encourage you to network. And if it's with admissions officers, great. The people that I remembered from some of these events, I remembered when their application came through for me. But there were so many events that I attended and that we held. It was not easy to remember everybody that I met, and I'm just being incredibly honest with you. So name dropping, not okay. Gathering information, really okay. Some of the schools will ask you if you've met up, like how did you do the research, or have you met with alumni, or do you know people at the school? And some don't, but it's really not necessary to list people.
All right, great. Thank you very much. I want to thank you attendees for attending and participating. I want to thank you for your questions, your answers, your time, attention, participation. You've been a great audience. Natalie, thank you also for joining me here and for sharing this. I have one final story, one thought, and one final question for our attendees. The thought, which is I think what I started with, get started. There's a lot to do to create an excellent MBA application. And the story, a couple of years ago, I got a call from John. He had an excellent Gmat, a prestigious job on Wall Street, slightly below average GPA, but in a really tough major from a public Ivy. He was aiming for elite MBA programs, and this competitive, accomplished applicant spoke to one of our consultants and to me about accepted services, and then decided to take the do-it-yourself approach. The following year, he called me again. He'd not gotten in anywhere. He'd gotten close, 3 wait lists, but in the end, he didn't make the cut. That's pretty frustrating. At this point in time, when he spoke to me the second time around, he wanted to work with a consultant whom he'd spoken with the year earlier, and that was Natalie Greenblatt Epstein, who we've been chatting with. Perhaps the first time around he was too cocky, perhaps he was too nervous, perhaps he didn't present himself well, either via his written application or his interviews. Whatever it was, he didn't get in that first time. Here is what he wrote about his experience with Natalie. After reviewing my previous submission and talking multiple times, she identified numerous ways that I could enhance my application. As part of helping me craft an application that highlighted my attributes, we redesigned the layout of my resume and optimized my essay topics to present me in the most well-rounded way. If you expect the best from yourself, then Natalie will help you achieve it. The results speak for themselves, as I will be attending MIT Sloan. Now, last year, MIT Sloan was one of only 4 US MBA programs with an acceptance rate of under 15%. John got the guidance he needed, that's not his real name, by the way, to avoid the pitfalls that had felled his previous application. Working with Accepted and Natalie specifically, he also brought out his strengths and distinctive qualities and ultimately showed that he belongs at a top MBA program. He got into his top school with Accepted's help, and so can you. Get accepted. Now the question. You stayed for the webinar, the pitch, the Q&A, and I really appreciate your time and attention, as I've said. You certainly seem to be interested in what Natalie and I have had to say. I'm curious, if you're not already a client or planning to become a client, would you be willing to share your reasons for not engaging one-on-one with Accepted? Chat window, question window, whatever you want. We don't get any answers. I'm assuming that you will all become clients and we'll be delighted to work with you. At this point in time, Natalie is available. She will book up later, but she is available now. And as I mentioned, as you see on your screen, you have $500 off an MBA application package. The coupon code is early bird, and it's open to you until the 24th. If you purchase now, you not only will get the discount, the $500 discount, but you'll also get this year's pricing on your purchase because the prices are likely going up in March. Again, yes, you're all going to be our clients. We look forward to working with you all, and good luck with your applications. Take care. Have a good evening. Bye-bye. Or day, if you're on the other side of the world. You're very welcome, Amit.